Part of writing pedagogy that has changed over the years is the shift to looking at the process, not just the product. Because all of the research has shown that if students are really going to improve, that you want to mentor them throughout the process, using drafts, having peer review, giving students a lot of feedback when they're in the process of writing and wrestling with ideas. Um, and not waiting until the end when they've finished to just comment on things or grade them. So you technically can grade throughout the process, giving points or even letter grades for different stages of a research project. But the idea is to intervene when students are learning best about the process itself. Formative feedback is where so much of the learning process takes place. Usually if students just get a summative grade, they look at it and then they're on to whatever the next project is. So you ask questions that provoke the students to think about what they're doing versus telling them right or wrong, because they have their own vision. You don't have to do it all yourself, but you have to build into the course time for this iterative process. For instance, in a 150, I use peer review for a first draft before students turn in a paper. So I'm not reviewing it. They're getting feedback from other students, but I've also trained the students what kind of questions to look for. So we have a training session with a sample paper. We, in a way, calibrate the language that we use about, in this case, writing. And then they use that knowledge to actually review one of their classmates' drafts, give feedback, and then the paper's turned in when I turn back the paper. So I talk to them about the comments, and then they can revise the paper based on those comments. Even when I taught video production, we would have a kind of peer review where at the rough draft stage of a video, we would have a class screening and everybody would have a sheet with questions to answer specifically about that assignment. So it reflects the rubric that the final project will be graded on. By going through those questions, they begin to internalize them. And so when they sit down with their own draft, there's a little voice saying, is my thesis clear? Do I have an argument? How does the evidence support my thesis? Because those are the kinds of questions they've already asked about someone else's. Over the course of several peer reviews, I think students they're much stronger writers just in their own ability to ask the right questions of their own writing. And then you have to train students to be critical about the feedback too, because sometimes the feedback isn't good or it's just somebody's opinion. It doesn't work, and I think a lot of faculty have had bad experiences with that, where they try to incorporate peer review and then students will say, well, this sounds good, or, you know, I liked your idea, or something not very useful to the writer. You need to think about it in terms of first-year students probably need a little more of that scaffolding, and by the time they get to be seniors, just opening up opportunities for students to come in and ask questions and discuss ideas as they move forward is better than lots of small assignments in the same way. So I think it's going to vary with the course, the material, and the level of the students. Some people have the mistaken idea that the Writing Center is a place it's just remedial and you send people to have things corrected. And that's not what we do. Students are trained with active listening knowing the right questions to ask to help students explore their own ideas and structure. They're not just editing or doing any of the work for the student. They're helping guide the student. And a lot of the techniques that I've been talking about that I use as faculty, that's how the Writing Center students are trained.